Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the podcast. We are so happy you guys are joining us here today. Today we wanted to talk about something different,
Very
I
common.
feel. Yes. Very common, yes. Different than the last two episodes that we put out. I feel like this one's going to take, I was going to say a dark turn, but it's not going to take a dark turn. We're just talking about depression and
Sad days.
Yeah, how we help ourselves when we are experiencing those sad days and the types of stuff that we like to do, little habits here and there, because I feel like we all deal with sad days and it's just a part of life. I think it's so important to know how to cope with them so we don't let those sad days take over us and turn us into grumpy people and people that just have no hope for the future.
Okay, let's talk about how do you feel in a sad day.
So on a sad day, how I feel... if it's like a really sad day, I feel
Short
like
temper.
Okay. Short temper. Sometimes I feel like I don't want to do anything. Like I feel physically lazy. Like I'm
Drained.
just literally drained. I don't want to get anything done. I don't want to get out of bed. I'm super emotional, so I'll cry a couple of times. It's just not a good time. Overall, it's not a good time, and I feel like more than anything, like aside from the physical things that I'm experiencing, it's more so the mental things that I experience, because it like blocks me from even looking further into my future and thinking that days are going to get better. Like when I'm depressed and I'm actually going through it, sometimes I'm in that mentality where I'm like, well, nothing's going to get better, or I think whatever I'm feeling right now is going to last a lot longer than it actually is, but my mind is so closed off because of what I'm seeing present day, that I can't even think about the future. And I think that automatically everything else is screwed moving forward. So, just not a good time overall. What about you? How do you think you feel when you're going through some sad days, or what do you do?
Ok, actualmente siento que estoy pasando por... estaba pasando por una fase muy mala donde no podía ni siquiera hacer ejercicio. De verdad, no podía ni siquiera levantarme de la cama, no podía hacer nada.
Yeah.
Mis días consistían en llegar de mi trabajo, dormirme todo el día y el día siguiente. Hasta que, llega el punto que obviamente me sentía miserable porque mis días no estaban siendo productivos en lo absoluto. Entonces decidí cambiar mi rutina, empezar como nuevos hábitos, cosas así. Literalmente cambiar todo, empezar algo nuevo. Prácticamente empezar algo nuevo siento que ayuda demasiado, como que te motiva un poco, ¿no?
Okay.
Y también siento que me motiva cuando paso por estas situaciones. Siento que me ayuda mucho como a, no sé, me cambia mi mente y digo como, tengo que ser mejor, tengo que hacer algo mejor, tengo que, ¿ya sabes? Tengo que hacer las cosas mejor.
Yeah, when you hit that the lowest point in your life where you're just kind of like, oh, I want to give up, there's no other thing to do but to like try to find ways to help yourself out, because otherwise you're like stuck in that hole and that feels so terrible. So sometimes I even think like the bad things that happen to us in life are actually blessings. I think they're so beautiful too, because when you put the hard work into getting out of that dark place, that's just natural that we're going to experience as human beings. When you put the work in and you actually start figuring out different ways to help yourself out, and you start to see your strength, you learn so much about yourself, and you also grow as an individual. And sometimes you don't even get to certain levels in your life unless you go through those hard things, and unless you're willing to fight through the hard things, because one thing is going through the hard things and staying there.
Stuck in there. No.
Stuck. And you're literally stuck because you're going to be in that mentality, and years can go on and you can get older and stuff, but you're still going to be stuck in that situation, in that mentality. Or you decide to say, you know what, I'm going to learn something from this. This is already something that happened to me, so what am I going to do with what I have and what is here? You could do a lot with that, and you could become a beautiful person. You can have more empathy for other people when you go through dark situations yourself, because you know how other people feel, and you're better at helping other people out as well. So I think it's overall something that we need to kind of switch our mentality on, because it could actually be used in our favor if we choose to do that.
Okay, I think answering to your question about how I feel, I just feel empty. I don't know.
I feel you, girl.
When I have like really bad days, I feel like sometimes I choose to get stuck in my head, and I just let my body feel it, let it go, like go through it.
Okay.
And then, but I keep that mentality that I'm gonna get over it, that I'm gonna get over it soon, and it's just a phase that I have to face.
Yeah. And I think the good thing about it being painful and even causing you that thing of like being stressful or you crying, the biggest thing that I could think of is like breakups, because I feel like breakups are one of the biggest worst. Yes, and the worst of things that you go through, and you literally feel like, well, it sucks because the person that you usually would go to for advice or to comfort you is not there anymore. So now you're just kind of like, what do I do? And you're having to let go of them, and you love them and all of these stuff. So it's, you guys know, if you guys have been through a breakup, it's one of the worst experiences ever. But also, I'm so grateful for every single breakup that I've gone through and how bad they hurt me, because according to how bad they hurt me is how much I learned from the situation and how much more I had to dig deep into myself. And then when you dig deep into yourself, you learn about yourself and you love yourself more. So like, I'm like, thank you, honestly, thank you to all the guys who broke my heart and who treated me wrong, and also thank you to myself for even making the choice to do something about it, because again, I could have stayed in that position and been cold and now be a person who doesn't want to love anyone and I want to treat people bad, but I don't. Why? Because I took the time to heal. And I think it's also necessary to feel the bad and intense negative emotions, because once you feel how bad that is, you're going to be so much more adamant about not feeling that way again. Like, you know how dark that was. Yep. And I feel like that's what's keeping me just like really focused on my future and not giving into my old habits, is the fact that I know how bad my old habits hurt me and how depressed I was and how terrible that felt. I never want to feel that ever again. But I feel like I wouldn't feel so passionate about it if I wasn't already there, if I didn't experience it myself. So there's just so many good things to extract from these negative situations. But 100%, I do agree with you that we feel empty, we feel hopeless, we feel like sometimes there's not going to be a solution. We feel like this is going to be an ongoing cycle. And I want to start with that. Like, when we are depressed, we're going through these little like depressive episodes, if you will, what is like the first thing that you think we should do in order to move forward? Like, for example, I think the first thing would be to pinpoint the problem. And the reason why I think that is because a lot of us don't even know that we have a problem to begin with. And if we don't know that we have a problem, then we can't find a solution because there's no solution to find.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes we just block the answer and it's like right in front of us.
Okay, sorry, we got completely interrupted by the lights. They just went out on us.
No, I was saying that I feel like we block the answer and it's right in front of us, but we don't want to face the problem sometimes. Because even when you are, I don't know, when you're in the situations, you know how it's going to end, but you're still there. You just hope for the best and you're just there.
Girl.
So,
yes.
It's just fucking weird.
I don't know why we do that. I think sometimes it's because you're like giving it the benefit of the doubt and you're hoping like, oh, it's going to be different. But sometimes when you actually know it's not going to be, I think you're just you're giving into instant gratification. I think that's what it is. Instead of delayed gratification, you want to satisfy yourself right now. You want to feel good right now. You're being selfish with yourself, but in a bad way, because I'm really big on self-love and everything, but that's not loving yourself. If you actually loved yourself, you would take all of these things into consideration and you wouldn't make choices that are going to hurt you as a person. You'd be like, okay, no, I know this is actually kind of a bad choice, and if I dive into this, they're going to end up hurting me. So I love myself. I'm not even going to talk to you. Like, I'm not even going to go there with you because of how much I value myself.
Well, like I said at the beginning, I feel like the first thing, point out the problem, but also trying to change your routine, trying to implement 100%. New things in your routine. What else?
Usually the habits that you are implementing or agreeing to while you're depressed aren't good habits. And the more you do these habits, the more of a routine your body gets into. You pretty much want to make sure that you're not repeating all of these negative habits, because then you're going to get in that cycle. So what do we have to do? We have to switch those negative habits with positive habits. And sometimes this will take discipline, especially if you're depressed. It's going to take discipline, meaning
you have to push yourself.
You're not going to feel like doing it. You're going to feel lazy. You're going to feel like you want to be in bed. But it's not about what you feel. It's about what you have to do. And you have to see the bigger picture. And it's what you want out of the situation. So if I want this amazing thing and I want to get out of this dark place and I want to see, all of these beautiful results, I have to make sure that I am taking the steps to get there. And sometimes the steps take sacrifice, meaning you will have to practice discipline. You will have to feel uncomfortable sometimes. You will have to go against your emotions in order to actually solve the problem. So what I wrote in my notes was pinpoint the problem for the first point, and then the second point to get practical about solving the problem, which is what we're even getting into right now.
Yeah, willing to solve it, willing to change your life or something.
Yes, like you have to make active choices in order to do this. And one of the first things that I said, so I have a whole list of ways in which we can implement these little habits, or what kind of habits to implement to make sure that we're getting out of that rut that we're in. So let's say you are depressed. Okay, boom, you have to figure out why you're depressed. Dig deep into yourself. Think, like, ask yourself questions. How did I get here? Was it something that somebody said? How did it make me feel? And then you figure out what the issue is. Now that we know what the issue is, we know that we have to start practicing positive habits to get out of this issue. And we also have to research about, like, into specifics, depending on what the issue is, of how to resolve it. But aside from that, it's the habits. So it's the practical points. So the first one that I put in my notes was to get active. Because like I said, when I usually get depressed, I want to be in bed all day and I want to sleep all day. Not only is my mental and emotional self affected, but now it's like creeping into my body to the point where I don't want to do anything. To the same thing that you were saying, like you stopped working out and everything. I was there too, like to the point where I just wanted to be in bed all day. I didn't want to do anything.
And I didn't believe that. I didn't believe that exercise helped you a lot, but it does.
It does. And I'll actually also mention another podcast. I'll put it down below for you guys that I was listening to at work yesterday. And that one was mentioning how our physical body and exercising, how much it really affects us in a positive way mentally.
And it's just being disconnect, you disconnect for like an hour from everything.
Exactly.
And you're just centered on what you're doing,
That's actually a really good point that you bring up. I forgot that, like, working out really does get you in that headspace of like, hey, I'm focused right now. I'm like focused on mind to body connection and making sure my muscles grow. Or for me, sometimes like I just put that music on and I'm like, I get to log off for a little bit and just focus on the music that I like to listen to. And then two, you're working towards something great. That's also super cool because you're like, every time you're going
that's
to the
important.
gym,
you have to keep your mind, shifted on the positive things.
Exactly. Yeah, like what am I going to get out of this, right? There's so many beautiful things to me going to the gym every day.
Just trusting your process and stuff.
Yeah, and knowing that every single baby step that you're putting in, every single little step is going to take you to that big thing that you want. Like every day matters. So once you start switching your mind to that as well, you're like, okay, maybe I should go work out. And trust me, since we are humans of habits, your body gets used to it and it starts asking for it. When I first started my fitness journey, I remember it was so hard for me because I felt like I was so frail and it was so hard for me to like lift weights. I didn't want to go. I would like dread it so bad. But then I'm like, no, you're going to force yourself to go at 6 a.m. for 2 weeks straight. Just do it. And I would go and I'd be like, oh, I don't want to go. But I would end up going, and tell me why, after those 2 weeks, naturally my body would start waking up at 6 a.m. saying, why aren't we at the gym? Like, let's go. And I actually fell in love with the gym after that. Like, it's really about your habits and repeating those healthy habits.
Consistent.
Yes. The second thing I mentioned of how I feel like we could help ourselves out when we're going through these depressive moments is to clean our space, to declutter, to get rid of things, to organize, and to plan a routine out. I think that is so important. Your environment is going to affect you so much. Do you feel like you struggle in this area at all when you're depressed? Or
No me daba cuenta, pero obviamente hasta te gana, ¿no? Como que solo está todo sucio y no te importa. Literalmente no te importa nada.
You just get used to it.
Pero también, o sea, quería tocar el punto que es importante sentir las emociones. Y está bien tener como 3 días, 4 días, una semana de depresión, ya sabes, como que lo estás sintiendo, pero muy dentro de ti también te dices a ti mismo como, vas a salir de esto, es temporal, ya sabes.
Beautiful. Okay.
Pero sí, también me gusta, o sea, también me gusta estar triste a veces, me gusta sentirlo, ya sabes, siento que es muy importante como sentirlo y luego como que se va solito.
Exactly. And it's a human process too. I feel like it it starts in the brain, and then it gets connected to the heart, and then like it has to make it's kind of like when you eat and you have to digest something. You don't just like eat it and it comes straight out. Like, no, it goes through the whole process, and you feel it in your stomach and everything, and then it goes out, right? It's the same thing with our emotions. Like, we have to process our emotions. So that's why it's so important what you're saying is that you should give yourself those 4 days, a week, 2 weeks, if it's a breakup, probably a month of like, okay, I'm going to be sad. I'll let myself be sad. I'll let myself feel everything because it has to. And then I will be adamant about processing it in a healthy way in order to get to the point where this actually leaves my system, but also having yourself as a cheerleader in the background and being like, hey, it's going to get out of your system really soon. Like, we're going to celebrate this soon. So that's really cool. I really like how you said that. But you feel like decluttering and organizing your space has helped you. Well, me too, honestly. And I relate to what you said of like, sometimes it just creeps up on you and you're just like, it just hits you out of nowhere, like, oh crap, like I'm a mess, like, right? And you were probably living in that mess for some time, but you're like, oh, I can't do this. And then you're wondering why you're still stressed out or why like you still feel like groggy because of your environment. I related to a plant. I think we're all plants. So we not only have to water our plants, but we also have to place it in direct sunlight because the environment is so telling, and that's what's going to actually affect the plant and help it grow. It's the same thing with us. Like, we can't be living in a cluttered and messy environment. It's just going to be very hard for your mental and emotional health to even be in check or to go into the process of being in check because your physical life is a mess. It's just everything is connected, and once we understand that everything is connected, then that's when we see the importance of the physical, the emotional, the mental, and everything being in place. I think that a lot of our problems is that we focus on the incorrect things, right? Or we only focus on certain things and not the full picture, and it's like everything needs to be taken into consideration, not just one thing.
Sí, por ejemplo, cuando tienes un problema, siempre te enfocas más que nada en el problema, pero no en todo lo... Por ejemplo, es lo que estoy pensando. O sea, estoy triste y todo, pero pon tú, te enfocas tanto en la razón por la que estás triste, pero te estás perdiendo de todas las cosas que la vida ya te dio, o que te está dando al mismo tiempo. Te quitó algo, pero te está dando al mismo tiempo otra cosa y solo te estás enfocando en lo que te quitó.
Sí.
¿Ya sabes?
Sí.
Lo odio.
Yeah, it's naturally something that we're inclined to do, unfortunately. But I think having these conversations helps us remember that in those moments, it's important to think about all the progress that you've made. And honestly, that's one of the points that I made, was reflect on the things that I have accomplished when I am depressed, because sometimes it's really easy to focus on all of the bad, because that's your mentality in this moment. It's kind of like a dark cloud above you. And don't feel bad about it. It's just a reaction to something that happened to you. Naturally, you're going to have that little cloud around you. But once you have that cloud there, don't let it get to the point where you're convincing yourself that you're not amazing or that you're not ever going to be better, right? This is one season of your life that you're going through. You have a beautiful life ahead. You have a lot of great things that are coming for you. And just because you went through this one situation where it's like, oh, I hate this. Okay. I mean, it's a part of your process, and maybe this is the same thing that's going to open the door for something even better to walk into your life, or maybe this thing is preparing you for something better that's going to walk into your life, and you wouldn't have been prepared if you hadn't gone through this first. So start changing your mentality on this. I think it benefits us at the end of the day to think this way instead of thinking like, oh, this is the end for me. Like, where is that going to get you? It's not going to get you anywhere, right? Like, remember all of the good things you've accomplished. Be your own cheerleader. Remind yourself how awesome you are, because you are, and we all are, just innately.
Okay, do you believe in therapy?
I do believe in therapy.
I just been to therapy like 5 times my whole life.
Okay, recently? Or when was the last time you went to therapy?
Like 2 years ago.
The last time I went was, I think, the beginning of this year. I was going through the whole breakup thing.
Yeah. But I hate it because I feel like it's the same thing. Like, I can just speak all my problems to you.
Okay, so you're more on the side where you don't need therapy?
Uh-huh.
Okay, and I'm more on the side where I need therapy.
I know that I need, but I just don't want it because I feel like it's the same thing. Like, I have people around me that are gonna advise me correctly, so...
Okay. So you're very blessed in that aspect to even have people.
Yeah, so I don't feel like I need to go to therapy. I have people that listen to me and stuff like that. But I also feel like it's very important to go. Just, I don't know.
This is why I like therapy, or this is why I advocate for therapy, is because they are trained professionals that have studied the human brain and psychology, and they understand things in a different way that we do, and because they're an outside source that's not within your family or your friends, and somebody who has no bias, honestly, they're looking at your situation in a very different way than you're looking at it. 9 times out of 10, you're looking at it very attached to it, very emotionally, right? And you're trying to like justify different things and make excuses and stuff. But they don't see that because they're not emotionally attached to whoever you're emotionally attached to in your own situation. So they're able to make you realize like, hey, maybe this is being done to you. Like, maybe that's manipulation. You don't see it because you're in love with this man, right? And because you're just distracted in all of these things. Sometimes even our family members feel bad to tell us things, or our friends. How many times have you been in situations where you see somebody going through something and you're like, I don't want to say anything, right? Sometimes that's the case for people. So then that's when I think therapy is such a beautiful thing, because this stranger, and not stranger, but like this professional in the brain is able to tell you.
But that's the thing, people have to be willing to go, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's usually the issue with a lot of people. Not issue, but like the reason why people don't want to go is because they're like, well, it's not something that I need. Like, I don't need it. I don't need that. Which honestly, I've never really like sided with that kind of side, honestly, because I just think like it's very crazy to think that you can't grow as a person.
I know I need it, but I don't know. I just don't want to go.
But I don't think therapy is for everybody. I think self-growth is something that we should all be striving for, and therapy is a way of practicing that self-growth and self-love. Some people need it more than others because of traumas and stuff as well. So it's going to vary from person to person, but I will always advocate for it. I think it's really cool to talk to somebody about my feelings that doesn't know me.
That doesn't know you.
Yeah, it's super cool. And then they also just give me like nice tips. Like my therapists have been amazing, and they're more on the spiritual side as well, so they help me see things in that way too, which I really, really like. It's kind of like a guidance too. So yeah, I mean, I believe in therapy. I think it's pretty cool.
Like I got it all in control.
That's good. I mean, that's where I'm trying to be, honestly. So I even think that having that close friend is like having a therapist. It's the same point that I was making before. It's so important because I feel like it's one of the processes, or one of the steps in the process of you filtering your emotions and feeling them out. Is yes, you feel that and you initially react and you cry and everything. One of the next steps is to vocalize it. I think it's very important to practice those communication skills and to be able to recognize what it is that you're feeling. And then also you're helping somebody else out potentially by saying your story. So there's a lot of beautiful things that we get in being able to trust in someone and open up to someone about what it is that we're going through.
Sí, ayuda demasiado eso, ¿no? El sacarlo, hablarlo con todas las personas que tengas que hablarlo.
Y creo que también es muy importante considerar que no todas las personas son personas correctas. Like good people for you to... Sorry, I can't roll my R's. To be telling your stuff to, because they're not going to help you. And you need to be able to discern that. So another thing that I think I really like to do when I'm feeling depressed that helps me out so much is to do something that genuinely relaxes me. And that's when like self-care comes into play. I feel like anything that shows me like putting myself time into caring for myself and just feeling better about myself, or like relaxing, is something that helps me, because I mean, if you think about it, we're already going through so much emotionally and mentally when we're depressed. And like I said, it's going to start affecting your body. So I think it's necessary for us to do things that relax our physical body as well as mental, if there's different things for you. But for me, it's like taking a bath. I love hot baths, and I like place a little candle and some nice music, my skincare routine at night, and like extra pampering myself. Sometimes that's like cooking a nice little meal for myself, or like sipping on wine, or like a little dessert, like something that makes me feel relaxed, and like I could just like calm down for a little bit, because I feel like our bodies are also so tense when we're going through like stressful situations, that I feel like it's necessary for you to like let go, and literally like let go in all aspects. What is something you would tell somebody that is going through a depressive time in their life right now? Or what is something that you would tell younger Sammy?
Siento que yo siempre fui una persona que, bueno, sigo siendo una persona que no puede demostrar sus emociones. Odio, o sea, cuando yo estoy en una etapa, actualmente estoy en una etapa depresiva, pero sé que solo es como esta semana y la otra semana voy a estar perfecta. Pero ajá, siento que yo no podía mostrar mis emociones. Entonces siempre cuando estoy como deprimida me gusta como aislarme del mundo totalmente hasta que luego vuelvo a salir cuando estoy bien, ¿no? Tipo así. Eso, o sea, tú tienes que ser tu mejor amigo en esos momentos. Porque tú eres la única persona que tiene, o sea, eres la única persona que te tienes a ti mismo. Entonces...
Nobody else is going to do that for you, so
exacto.
You better...
Entonces, pues sí, o sea, es eso como te estaba diciendo. Lo estoy sintiendo y sé que estoy triste y me gusta estar triste, está bien estar triste, pero tengo muy presente que solo es un momento. O sea, sé que voy a pasar por esto y ya, o sea.
¿Cómo te ayudas cuando tú estás deprimida porque otra persona te hizo algo a ti? Cuando, like, so those situations where it's like not even your fault, you feel like you did your absolute best, you poured everything, and now this person did something to you, and now you're depressed, and now you're having to face all these negative
esto,
emotions.
ajá, me ha pasado tantas veces ese tipo de situaciones, pero siento que empecé a trabajar mucho la aceptación, ¿no? Lo que estábamos hablando también, que aceptas las cosas como son, cosas que no puedes controlar, simplemente las tomas como son, y es eso, o sea, tú eres quien decide cómo te van a afectar, o sea, sé que te van a afectar porque somos humanos y todo, pero tú decides qué tanto quieres que te afecte, ¿ya sabes? Suena muy fácil, obvio, decirlo así, y no está fácil porque no estoy pasando un momento raro, pero ajá, yo era una persona que no podía demostrar nada y sigo siendo así, pero también aprendí eso, ¿no? Que es importante como hablarlo o expresarlo a veces para sentirte mejor. Como está bien expresarlo, no está mal. Como que no sé, no me gusta dar lástima a las personas con mis problemas.
So that's what it is.
Como...
like, don't pity me. Yeah. And then I also think that's why it's so important who you're telling your stuff to, because the right people will not pity you, and they are not going to make you feel that way. They're going to make you feel accepted when you express your emotions, and like it's okay for you to express your emotions. And
sí, muy importante.
So yeah, I think it comes down to your environment and who you have in your circle. If people are making you feel like you have to, like they pity you, then that's probably when you have to reevaluate what kind of friends you have and the kind of voices that you're listening to, because I do think it's necessary to express your emotions. Like I said, it's a part of the process.
I also implemented like exercise in the mornings, my routine, and I don't know, hanging out more with my siblings.
What do you think helps when you hang out with your siblings? Why do you think that's important?
I don't know, I'm just distracted. I really appreciate having someone there. Because I have them without choice, you know? So it's just a gift that life gave me.
Exactly.
To never be alone.
I view it that way too. And honestly, I think the reason why it's so important to be surrounded by family when you are sad is because, well, I think we also say this from a very blessed place, because we're lucky to have family members that love us and that treat us with kindness and care. Right? Obviously, it's going to be different for different people because sometimes we don't have the best support system within our families. But when it is healthy and you know that you can rely on your family, I think it's so cool to be grateful for that. So, like once you actually start thinking about it, it's such a blessing because I feel like they're placed in our lives for a reason. My siblings are like one of the main reasons why I have been able to get through so many things in my life, because when I was depressed and stressed out and crying late at night and, you know, needing somebody to talk to, they were always there for me, like at all times. And just that one action of being there for me and listening to me while I'm crying and going through it, like that was so important to me. And it's still like, I feel like they play a huge part in the person that I am, and I'm always going to be so grateful for them. So I think that's cool too. Like, the reason why is because they're people that love us. They're people that know us and that know our real intentions and hearts, and they spend the most time with us. So that's also why I feel like they're so protective over us, and it's cool to be able to rely on that when we're going through.
It's cool to have people that love you without condition.
Yeah. And you know they're always going to be there for you. Yeah.
I also try to do like, I don't know, different things every day.
Ooh, that's a good one. Like just new activities, like just trying new things
Just whatever.
out. Every time I would like
you
go
come up
through
with.
a pretty bad breakup too, I always try to implement a new habit into my life. And I don't know what it is, but like it helps out so much. I think it's like a new routine. It's a new thing. It's like a new thing that I wasn't doing before. And sometimes we're stuck in like, well, I used to go do this with this person, and this is what we would always say to each other, and this is what we would always listen to. So it's kind of hard to detach from that person. But once you start building a literal new life, there's nothing that what you're living or like what you're walking towards, like none of what your past was is connected to this at all. So you're not even like you slowly
Or even when
start
you're
forgetting.
just distracted through the day, it's just, I don't know, you just forget about the problem.
You really do. And then sometimes like I've had other instances where I'm like, oh my gosh, like I've been going through this for weeks and it felt like days, or like I really hopped over this. Or no, the other way around. Like I've really been going through this for months. Sorry, I'm a little slow. But it's only felt like days. Am I saying this right? No. I feel like I'm confusing myself and everybody else. But the point, the thing
it didn't feel that long.
The thing I'm trying to say,
it was that long, but it didn't feel like it.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm trying to say. Thank you, Sammy.
I feel like January was yesterday, and
I know.
I'm still on those problems.
Why are my January problems my October problems? No, literally. Dang. But why do you feel like they are?
Because I have let them be.
Okay. Bingo.
Really not.
Bingo.
That's what you gotta change to your beliefs. Like, you're believing that, I don't know, that these situations has control over your life. But it really doesn't.
Yeah, and you're choosing to believe that because you could easily be like, bye out of my life completely. Like, I don't need the situation. I don't need to be attached to it in any kind of way. But I think sometimes we're stuck on the fact that we're like, oh, but I kind of want to leave a little door open, or I kind of want a possibility, or I kind of don't want to let go of this because it was good at its time. And yes, it was good at its time. It's okay to view it as something that was good when it was good. But the reality is that right now it is not good. So you have to let go of that, or else you're not going to move forward. And then you're blocking blessings from even coming into your life, moving forward, because you're attached to something. You can't possibly hold all of these blessings that are in store for you if you're too busy holding stuff that is in the past. You don't have room to hold anything. Drop it. Literally drop it. And for you to drop it, you're going to have to let go of some things. You're going to have to switch your habits around. You're going to have to live a different lifestyle. But hey, you want something big? You want blessings? Sacrifice. That's the only way that's going to happen. That it's going to happen. So my last little tip or thing that I like to do is to pour into myself when I'm feeling depressed. I think this is so nice, like through podcasts and YouTube videos and the music that I listen to. When I'm like super depressed, I listen to like godly music. I listen to worship music. I feel like it just always takes me back to like what actually matters. And then I realize like, okay, this isn't as big as it is. And there's somebody bigger above me who could take control of the situation, and where I lack, he can be greater and actually help me out. 2, I also like to listen to things that are going to edify me, because I feel like that's what actually motivates me to get out of the situation that I'm in, if it makes sense. So like when I was going through the whole breakup too, I would watch a lot of videos about narcissism and just like manipulation and stuff like that. I knew like the person that I was with was showing all of these traits. So once I started understanding a little bit more and learning about my brain and attachment styles and stuff like that, I took blame off of myself. I realized why I even ended up with that person and why it went the way that it did. And then I got so many answers through that. And I had so much more compassion even for the person who hurt me as well. So I think it's so necessary for you to learn about the thing that you're going through. If you are depressed due to grief, or you're depressed due to loss or a breakup, or whatever the case may be, dig deep into figuring out like a little bit more about that area, if that makes sense. A little bit more about breakups, a little bit more about grieving, like different things that are going to help you out. I feel like there's so many good things out there that are like so readily available. If you just Google it, or if you just look it up on the internet, it's gonna pop up and you're gonna get so much helpful material.
Me gusta que a veces siento que cuando algo me lastima, me da la motivación, como estaba diciéndote, para hacer más cosas, para no sé, para empezar a poner orden en mi vida o algo así.
Do you feel like that's what you're doing now? While you're
No,
going
pero
through
sé que lo
this?
voy a hacer. Sí, lo voy a hacer. Estoy en ese proceso de sentir como todas mis emociones, pero a la vez estoy como intentando poner orden en cosas que había procrastinado, ya sabes.
Okay, so you're like transitioning into it, I feel like.
Espero que sí.
You felt the emotions, you're going to slowly transition into you having healthy habits. And I know you are. I mean, 100% you are. There's no doubt about it. You're going to be so much better in a couple of weeks. And whatever's happening to you right now, just like you said, it's just temporary. It's not going to be here forever. So I think it's so important to remind ourselves of that point. And also, I do want to let you guys know, like, personally, I did want to mention this. Like, I've gone through some very depressive moments in my life, like, very, very depressive, to the point where, like, I didn't even want to be here. I felt like there was no hope. And I, like, even took steps to trying to not be here without being that direct, okay? And I want to talk about it because it's real, and a lot of people go through these kinds of emotions, and I think it's necessary to mention this. But I've been there before where I felt so freaking sad or like so freaking screwed over that I'm like, what's the point? Like, there's literally no point. It's not going to get better. So I know how it feels like to be in that stage in your life. And then I also know what it feels like to be living today, being so happy, knowing that my life is not perfect, but there's so many good things in store for me. Like, having all of my dreams in mind, knowing that there's people around me that love me so, so much. And that's, like, even after all of those negative things that I went through, there's people that once you start working on yourself and pouring into yourself, loving yourself and getting right with yourself, trust me, you're gonna attract amazing people into your life. And I'm experiencing it now. It's about, like, ditching the victim mentality, because if we say yes to that victim mentality, we're gonna stay there. And yes, you're gonna feel like you don't want to be here anymore, but the second that you're like, hey, I don't want to be a victim anymore, what can I do to take control of my life and make my life better? Trust me, once you start taking those steps, you're going to see such a huge change in your life, and everything is going to become so much better because you're making that active choice. So I just want to give you guys hope today. I've been in those dark spots and moments in my life, and I know what it feels like, but then I could say it is so well worth it to switch that mentality, because what I feel today and how much I love myself and how excited I am for my future compares to no other feeling. I go throughout my days, and yeah, I could have little stressful days here and there, and things still tick me off because I'm still a human being and people piss me off and I get annoyed and everything. But at the end of the day, my overall energy is just like, I freaking love my life. I freaking love life. I've never felt this way before. It's crazy that I feel this way now, but just the fact that it's even possible, I'm like, you guys better do it. Like, put the work in and try to get out of there. And that's why we will be talking about this in upcoming episodes, and that's why we even started this podcast, is because we're realizing we put the work in just some areas in our lives, and we're already seeing so many benefits. So, like, imagine if we put ourselves, or like we put even more effort in, more time in, more discipline in, like, what are we gonna get out of life? Amazing and beautiful things. We're discovering that now, and we want to share that with you guys because we hope that you guys can also walk on this journey where our lives are gonna get better, and we're gonna start attracting positive things into our lives and taking control of the areas that we can't take control of.
Siento que a veces nos sentimos muy frustrados por no saber qué va a pasar con nuestro futuro. Y eso me frustra demasiado. Pero lo que te tiene que tener como es eso, la esperanza es como que lo que te mantiene ahí. Si tú estás creyendo en lo que estás haciendo, lo vas a lograr. Pero tú tienes que ser el que cree en ti, si no, nadie va a creer en ti, nadie va a hacer las cosas por ti. Pero tienes como que tener esa lucecita encendida, ya sabes, de que vas a llegar. No sabes cómo, pero vas a llegar. Pero es eso, o sea, es difícil como mantenerte ahí, ¿no? Mantenerte como en intentarlo, no sé, como creer en eso. Es difícil. Pero una vez que como que tienes no sé, ese cambio positivo, lo sientes, o sea, te juro que lo sientes todo dentro de ti. Está muy loco. Pero sí se siente. Y lo vas a ver solito, como todas las personas y todo lo que pasa en tu vida está bien.
Sí, y las personas en tu vida van a ver el cambio en ti. Like, so many people...
Más que nada tú, o sea, tú vas a ver que empieza todo con nosotros, lo hemos hablado muchas veces. Que empieza todo con la manera en la que tú te tratas a ti mismo y cómo decides afrontar las situaciones que pasas. Entonces de ahí empiezas a ver que la vida solito te va alejando de las situaciones que no tienes que estar ahí porque no merecen que estés ahí. Y, ¿qué más? Y te va trayendo solo cosas buenas. O sea, tú solito vas a empezar a verle el sentido a la vida una vez que cambies todo contigo mismo. ¿Sabes?
Yeah, exactly.
Está muy loco.
It all starts with you, and that's why I think this episode is so important too, because these feelings of anger, sadness, loss of hope are normal human emotions. We're all going to experience them at one point in our lives, no matter how good your life is and how successful you are. That doesn't mean that you're automatically just not going to be depressed one day, or you know, you're not going to be going through it. We're all going to be going through all of these negative things at one point in our lives, and we have to know how to cope with that, and we have to know how to help ourselves out. And I think the more we can help ourselves out, the better we could understand other people, and the better we could better help other people as well. So then now we're all just growing. So it all starts with you. Dig deep into just like things that make you feel better and that really help you out. It's going to be different for everyone, but I think the ones that we mentioned today is something that we could all implement into our daily lives to help us be better and happier when we are going through some difficult times.
Y también es normal como pensar que ya habías superado algo.
Oof, that is so good.
Y que luego caigas otra vez. Vas a caer unas 3 veces.
So good. Yes, because a lot of people have the wrong idea of growing, and they think, and people have called me out on it, or like, you know, where it's like, oh, well, look at you, like, it's the second time this happens to you. And I'm like, how dare you, like, even question somebody's process, because you don't know if somebody has to fall 10 times until they specifically understand and they can move forward. Everyone is so different, and when you have that kind of compassion for yourself, then that's when you start having compassion for other people. When other people start judging me because of you failed too many times, or like, really, like, you're really gonna do that again, I'm like, oof, I feel bad for you, because when you go through mistakes, I'm pretty sure you're very hard on yourself like that as well. You should have compassion for yourself, and you should know that it's okay to fail, and it's okay to fail multiple times. Now, you do have to get to the point where you're like, okay, me failing all of these times is giving me the same result. I don't like this. Let me try to change something. But some people need some more convincing, and that's okay. And you're no one to say how many times somebody is allowed to fall. That is not up to you at all. But yes, it is very important to keep that in mind. It's sometimes going to happen a couple of times, and you're going to have to trip and fall a couple of times in order for you to understand things, but that's totally fine. And I'm glad you even brought that point up, because I feel like I judge myself so much when I commit the same mistake over and over and over and over again. But girl, I did commit the same mistake over and over and over again, and then I got to the point where I stopped committing that mistake, and now I'm not going to commit that mistake ever in my whole entire life. But every time I did, it convinced me a little bit more. I learned a new lesson. Now I have the full package. Let's say before, I kind of had like partial idea of how bad things could get and partial standards. Now, because I've fallen so many damn times and it has hurt so many damn times, I'm like even so much more convinced of what I truly want. And like nobody can convince me otherwise, because of all the times
everything
I got
is
up.
So clear now.
Yeah, but it all came from bad things. So at the end of the day, it's okay to go through bad things. It's human nature, it's life. But what matters is what you're going to do to help yourself get out of there and not let that moment take over your life and define how it's going to look moving forward. But yeah, I feel like that's pretty much all we had to say, right? Do you have anything else to say? No? Okay. So we're going to go ahead and close off the podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you guys are interested in any other topics, feel free to DM us. And don't
if you want to join us, you're absolutely welcome.
Yes, that too. We actually want to invite you guys on the podcast, and we've had a couple of people mention that they want to be on the podcast.
We ran out of ideas.
Yes, so we need your help. No, but if you guys honestly live in the Vegas area and you guys are interested in coming on the podcast, we are more than happy to have you guys on here and just share your story. Obviously, whatever you want to talk about, we'll go with, because we think everybody has a story, everybody has something important to say, and something that we can learn from. So let us know, hit us up, and you can do that on our social media. We'll put all of those details in the description box down below. But with all of that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast, and we will see you guys on the next one. Bye bye.